Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw.
Good morning, everyone. I am Charlotte Gail R. Lopez, your today's discussion leader. My role is to moderate the discussion. I will keep the discussion going, turn to the group for questions or comments, notice who wishes to speak, and help ensure that everyone's voice is heard.
My name is Evjoy Biulimbawan, your summarizer for today. Besides reading the selection in advance and jotting down keynotes, my job is to prepare a brief summary of today's read. The other members of the group will be counting on me to give a quick statement that conveys the gist, the key points, the main highlights, and the essence of today's reading assignment.
I am Joyce Lisa Ikiyang, your literary luminary for today's discussion. My role is to focus attention particularly on important or relevant passages from the text or readings that show changes in the story or in particular character and discuss it with the group. Also, I help readers by spotlighting something funny, powerful, interesting, confusing, or puzzling happenings from the text.
Hi, it's me, Magdanliba Ladimbaga, your connector for today's discussion. Being a connector, there is no right or wrong answers here. Whatever the reading connects you with is worth sharing. My role is to make connections between elements in the reading selection to students' lives, the lives of others, and or from one character in the book to another character. To find connections between the book and the world outside is my purpose.
Hi, I'm Janet S. Lanchon, your today's vocabulary enricher. My role is to look up for words that may be unfamiliar, puzzling, or unusual. My purpose is to discuss and help the readers figure out the meanings of difficult terms from the context clues.
Hi, I'm Danae Sumalabat, your illustrator for today's discussion. My role is to draw some kind of visual image related to the reading. That's something I can visualize while I read. It can be a sketch, cartoon, diagram, flowchart that relates to the important scenes. The illustration can directly relate to the text, or it can be something I am reminded of, thought, or felt while reading.
Our discussion for today is all about Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. Pygmalion is a romance in 5 acts. It was first presented on stage to the public in 1913 and was performed in England in 1914 with Mrs. Patrick Campbell as Eliza Doolittle. The play is a humane comedy about love and English class system. The play became famous as a motion picture in 1938 and later as a stage musical, My Fair Lady, with a musical score by Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Law. A 1964 film version of the musical featured Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. Shaw took his title from the ancient Greek legend of the famous sculptor named Pygmalion, who could find nothing good in women, and as a result, he resolved to live out his life unmarried. However, he carved a statue out of ivory that was so beautiful and was so perfect that he fell in love with his own creation. Indeed, the statue was so perfect that no living being could possibly be its equal. Consequently, at the festival, he prayed to the goddess of love, Aphrodite, that he might have the statue come to life. When he reached home, to his amazement, he found that his wish had been fulfilled, and he proceeded to marry the statue, which he named Galatea. Shaw mentioned that the character of Professor Higgins was inspired by several British professors of phonetics like Alexander Melville Bell, Alexander J. Ellis, Tito Pagliardini, but above all, the cantankerous Henry Swift. Henry Higgins, a phonetician, accepts a bet that simply by changing the speech of a Cockney flower seller, he will be able in 6 months to pass her off as a duchess. Eliza undergoes grueling training. When she successfully passes in high society, having in the process become a lovely young woman of sensitivity and taste, Higgins dismisses her abruptly as a successfully completed experiment. Eliza, who now belongs neither to the upper class whose mannerisms and speech she has learned, nor to the lower class from which she came, rejects his dehumanizing attitude. For today, we will discuss the 5th act of Pygmalion. So, what was discussed in this part? Can someone summarize it briefly?
On the fifth part of the play, Henry and Pickering arrive, and while they are downstairs phoning the police about Liza's disappearance, Mrs. Higgins asks the chambermaid to warn Liza not to come down. Mrs. Higgins scolds Henry and Pickering for their childishness and careless manner. The arrival of Alfred Doolittle is announced. He enters dressed fashionably as a bridegroom, but in an agitated state, casting accusations at Higgins. Doolittle explains at length how, by a deed of Henry's, he has come into a regular pension. His lady companion will now marry him, but still, he is miserable. At this point, Mrs. Higgins reveals that Liza is upstairs, again criticizing Henry for his unthoughtful behavior. Mrs. Higgins calls Liza down, asking Doolittle to step out for a moment to delay the shock of the news he brings. Liza enters politely cool towards Henry. She thanks Pickering for all the respect he has shown to her since their first meeting, calling her Miss Doolittle, removing his hat, opening doors. The difference, Liza concludes, between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. At this point, Doolittle returns. He and Liza are reunited, and all the characters, excepting Henry, prepare to leave to see Doolittle married. Liza and Higgins are left alone. Higgins argues that he didn't treat Liza poorly because she was a flower girl, but because he treats everyone the same. He defends his behavior by attacking traditional social graces as absurd. "You call me a brute because you couldn't buy a claim on me by fetching my slippers," he says. Liza declares that since Higgins gave no thought to her future, she will marry Freddie and support herself by teaching phonetics, perhaps assisting Nepoma. Higgins grows furious at Liza and lays his hand on her, but he quickly regrets doing so and expresses appreciation of Liza's newfound independence. At the play's curtain, he remains incorrigible, however, cheerfully assuming that Liza will continue to manage his household details as she had done during her days of instruction with him.
What do you think is the purpose of the author in writing the play?
So Shaw wants us to think about the problems caused by our common language and how language can separate people from different places and classes and even different parts of the same town. The play is really about language and the idea that through language one can raise one's social status, which is something important for that era. Shaw wanted to get rid of the whole class system and thought the play would prove his point. He wanted to advocate for women's suffrage and the end of Britain's class system.
Thank you for that, Evijoy. So, what passage or line is the most memorable to you?
Among all the passages in the Act 5, it is undeniable that the passage placed on page 79 truly caught my attention. It's my pleasure to read it to you. I know, I am not blaming him. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me that you didn't do it. You see, really and truly, apart from the things anyone can pick up, the dressing and the way of speaking and so on, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins, because he always treats me as a flower girl, and always will. But I know I can be a lady to you, because you treat me as a lady, and always will. Honestly speaking, this passage is so powerful and interesting because despite all the hardships and discrimination Elisa experienced just to learn and speak proper English, she conquered all and already had the courage to voice out her opinions and observations. I could actually feel the sincerity and deluge emotions in her message. Treated as a duchess, even she's a mere flower girl. Aside from that, I also chose this passage as realization hits Pickering, one of the male characters, that his simple actions carries a great bulk weight to someone, and thus to us may be jewelry to someone. This line packs up double meaning by stating clearly that what is needed is not just one's affection to nobility. Quite contrary to the dresses, the vowels, the consonants, the jewelry that she learned to put on, probably the greatest thing she has gained from the experience is the self-respect that Pickering endowed her from the first time he called her Miss Doolittle. The passage placed on number 80 also made an enormous impact to me as it speaks about forgetting our very own language and our real selves. let me deliver the passage to you. I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can go back to it. Last night, when I was wondering about, a girl spoke to me, and I tried to get back into old way with her, but it was no use. You told me, you know, that when a child is brought into a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets his own. Well, I'm a child in your country. I have forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours. That's the real break-off with the corner of Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it. It conveys a prevailing message to the readers and characters, isn't it? It does not only talk about forgetting our very own language, but also disremembering our real origin and identity, mainly if we leave our birthplace. But if we will not soar higher and change our ways, are we able to see the reality and opportunities the world offers? If we will change, let's change for the better, but not necessarily forget our native language. It's a great advantage to learn proper English, but worse if we forget our first language. However, I understand the situation of Elisa for striving so tough to learn and speak standard English because she wants to be respected and be known as a woman of dignity and morality, not just a mere flower girl.
When our national hero Dr. Jose Rizal once said, "He who does not love his own language is worse than an animal and smelly fish," I felt that. This line of the passage that Miss Giyang gave to us is totally a real break-off. I would connect the passage of the line to all of us fellow Filipinos. The freedom to express ourselves through our very own language is a fundamental human right that we have here in the Philippines. Whether with friends or family, communicating our ideas with those people around us is the key to basic survival. Language is also a vehicle for participation in community and cultural life.
For us to have a common understanding on a word or a subject. Ate Jeanette, would you mind to unlock the unfamiliar terms you have found in the Act 5 of Pygmalion?
In the part of Pygmalion Act 5, the unfamiliar words I found are insigniant, ignoramus, squabble, repudiate, impudence, rogue, and placidly. The first word is insigniant. It means a feeling of showing anger, annoyance of what is perceived as unfair treatment. The second word is ignoramus. It means an ignorant or stupid person. The third word is squabble. It means a noisy quarrel about something petty or trivial. The fourth word is repudiate. It means refuse to accept or reject as unauthorized. The fifth word is impudence. It means a quality of being impudent, impertinence. The sixth word is rough. It means a dishonest or undisciplined man. The last word is placidly. It means quiet and serene, pleasantly calm and peaceful.
The next question is, what do you think the author wants you to learn from reading this play?
It is social criticism and discrimination again and again. Social criticism is not okay, and so of discrimination. Pygmalion is a play by George Bernard Shaw that tells the story of a poor young flower girl who has been disrespected and overlooked because of her physical appearance and the dialect she speaks. The outcome of her training is not what she expected, and she is not only able to change her appearance and speech, but also she gained confidence in her own abilities. The impacts of social criticism and discrimination are no jokes, and changing the usual appearance of every individual is inevitable. And that's the author wanted us to learn about reading his play.
Are there any lines or scenes in the play that remind you of other books written by the same author or books written by different authors?
Yes, there is. It reminds me the Greek story of Pygmalion, wherein he made an ivory statue representing his ideal of womanhood and then falls in love with his own creation because he believed that a lot of women were flawed and judged quickly around others on their attributes. He also persuaded himself to only think about the best woman with perfect attributes. This displays both the power and the self-centeredness of a man. Same true with Hitchens by stating the lines, Let her go. Let her find out how she can get on without us. She will relapse into the gutter within 3 weeks without me at her elbow. Both the male characters discriminated the abilities of their women because they do believe that without them, women can stand by their own and will always be under their feet, being trampled on. Hitchens also set out to transform a lower-class London flower girl by the name of Eliza into his idea of a high society lady. Hereof, Pygmalion and Hitchens think that the women they build are just a guinea pig in a scientific experiment that is inherently exploitative and manipulative. But I beg to disagree. Women have the ability to determine their own choices and their right to influence social change to themselves and to others. Just like what Eliza did into the end, as she realized that she is an independent woman, a human being in her own right, with the ability to make her own decisions in life.
How can you connect the message of the play to yourself and to what is happening today in our society?
Connect the message of the play to myself and to what is happening today in our society. Social criticism and discrimination, not a good point to start with. When I was young, I've gone with a lots of criticism and discrimination to the point that I wanted to isolate myself from everything. I was discriminated because of the social status that I have in life. How I buy a piece of bread worth 2 pesos, how I walk from school to home, and even when I recite, they don't miss the chance to criticize me. As if I don't have the right to speak up my mind. I was bullied when I was young because of the way I speak. Like I cannot pronounce proper English fluently. And when we do face-to-face interaction in English, moment by moment, I decided to learn and conquer that weakness of mine. That's why I chose English major, since people who speak English fluently are seen as high people and being respected. One thing I know for sure, it is simply the tolerance, it is simply the matter of tolerance on how you manage to move forward. Now the question is, how I connect the message of the play to the society? Well, discrimination for women is still rampant for today, but there are a lot of ways to uplift women, and pageantry is the number 1 in the list. Just recently, women in pageants are entitled as spokesperson with a purpose and advocacy, and I think it's a great idea because through this event, women show confidence. Women gain confidence as they voice out what they have got.
I think Donalyn prepared something for us today. Donalyn, would you mind to share that to us?
I made a digital art of Eliza, the flower girl. George Bernard Shaw, in his work Pygmalion, it shows that Eliza, a girl in a poverty, has gradually changed physically and mentally. She comes to find her self-identity, and she awakens in all aspects during the period she spends with the aristocrats of bourgeoisie, Higgins and Pickerings. As Eliza said in Pygmalion Act 5, and I quote, "You see, really, truly, and apart from the things that anyone can pick up, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she's behaved, but how she's treated."
So, that's all for today. Good job everyone, and stay safe.